But if no one does articulate the views we think should be articulated, we leave it. We're not under obligation. We're not obligated to endorse anyone. It's our space, and when we think it's right to do so, we do it. It's not a crime for us to endorse no one.
Okay, it's 3 weeks down the road. How do you get the momentum, the messaging, and the pulse of the nation?
Unfortunately, Simon, I'll disappoint you that I read, I follow media, electronic and written print. I even follow candidates across the trail. I am failing to pick the real gist of what is driving the various agenda of the different opposition candidates. And that puts us in a bit of a problem. And that speaks to the kind of concerns we had hitherto, these nominations, on the side of the opposition. That the opposition is going to the polls without a clear message, without a unifying message, without clarity of intention, without a rallying message to the people that want to see a different face in State House. And therefore, you wait and see and say, okay, let's wait and hear them on the trail. And on the trail, the little I have heard, trading of accusations, incriminating, insulting, all sorts of things. Probably.
Maybe you're selective in your hearing.
But probably to the credit, I'm speaking, to the credit of a few candidates, like probably Hon Mpuuga, the CP candidate says something that is incoherent, and you could see he needs a lot of time for him to have his message across. My brother Chagulanyi speaks beleaguered and unable to coherently put across the issues that he wants the country to hear from him. And you're like, so then how do we consolidate these scattered messages to rally the rank and file of the opposition? Because, truth be told, across the years, opposition to government has been growing geometrically. But the consolidation of this growth of opposition into a coherent outfit, into a united front, has become a problem. And I worry that if the key opposition candidates do not get back and look themselves into a big mirror and listen to themselves, they probably accept to be advised on what they're doing, we could leave the trail worse off than we were as the opposition.
Okay, do you imagine that President Museveni is further consolidating while, as you argue, the opposition sounds beleaguered, scattered, and incoherent?
Well,
Museveni gaining more ground.
I don't think that Museveni gaining ground, he's actually consolidating, because he knows where he has support and he knows where he doesn't have support. And it's the business of the opposition to eat into his territory. It's the business of the opposition. His business is to keep his power, regardless of what others think about it. And it's our job to know where we do not have a footprint to make inroads. Our own, for example, our own selection, our own section of candidates across the country by the different political parties speaks also a bit about our slow migration into new territory, and that threatens the expansion of the opposition to new territory, which gives the ruling party, which is the state party, an opportunity to consolidate, so to speak.
Yeah, but when you talk about selection of candidates and having a countrywide appeal, the National Unity Platform, for which you credit yourself to have been one of the founders, recently came out with a list of their candidates, and it actually prompted a new debate into the elites and the populists. How do you weigh into this? the whole circus around this debate?
First of all, I don't speak for the NUP.
Yes.
And I do not determine their ideological orientation, which includes their selection of leaders across the country. So I am most hesitant to delve into the quality of candidates they selected. That's their business. Probably that satisfies the agenda to which I'm in the party too. So it's not fair for you to ask me to evaluate the quality of their candidate.
Yes, but one of the things that have stood out prominently is vindictiveness, what some people have chosen to call vindictiveness from the party towards people who seem to be inclined towards Mpuuga.
I am not aware of personal persons. But you see, you don't have to drink the whole sea, Simon, to know that it's salty. A little taste of the waters, a little sea, will tell you that this is salty water, this is a salty sea. And therefore, any politician out there would have known better what they're dealing with. And therefore, it was their business to, early in time, to understand that probably this group is allergic to particular qualities and particular orientations. So they have the agenda, and I don't want to preach to them on the agenda. My business is to speak to those who can listen to me to join my platform. I am recruiting from across, and if any member from any party feels disenfranchised and displaced in terms of opportunity, in terms of presence, in terms of belonging, we have availed a platform.
There is a bit of awkwardness where you're looking at recruiting people who feel disenfranchised by the national unity platform instead of the national resistance movement.
Did I say from the NUP alone? That's your statement, because you want me to discuss NUP, which I have declined. I am only saying we have any party will recruit from anywhere, and make no mistake, we have recruited from the NRM. You want me to enlist the recruits from NRM? We have recruited from across parties. Ordinarily, we would have loved to begin on a clean slate, but we work at the moment with what is available as a young party. So we will continue to grow our presence, recruiting young people and orienting them to our ideology. That will take time, but in the space of 3 months after our formation, we needed to get somewhere, and therefore we had to buy into the existing and then reorient them to our thinking, and we are satisfied with our progression.
There is a strong belief that while you're just a young party that's just come onto the political block, you're looking more towards the 2026 polls, and no wonder you're going around the country to prepare for the next polls that you have derided for a while.
Which polls are you talking about?
The election, the forthcoming election.
Simon, we have done, you see, 4 weeks ago, a month ago, the party outed, the DF outed what they called the minimum political agenda,
right,
and was properly clothed in space and time to say, over this agenda, we will go over the forthcoming election. And we said our minimum agenda is to have as many people as possible in parliament, to populate parliament and local government as much as feasible. Feasibility to mean space and time, logistics and other issues.
That's quite a tall order for you.
Well, it's a tall order for
given
everyone.
the fact that we are believing in politics of strongholds now, where things stand. There is more traction for the leading political opposition in areas where you seem to be focused.
And unfortunately, having followed probably the DF a lot, the DF has built a presence in Teso. It has built a feasible existence in Acholi, in parts of Lango. We are in Bunyoro, we are in Kasese, we are in Uganda, and we are growing. I don't think we have any reason to prove a point to anyone. We're following our agenda. And that agenda, which is our own making, properly anchored on our capacity in the current situation, we shall follow. And the outcomes will reflect our energy and level of preparation, because it came too fast, too short, too fast for us. And we said, now, this is our minimum program, and we are following our minimum program.
With the electoral roadmap already rolling out, do you want to say that 2026 election could be more of the same? You're yet to see anything different?
Unfortunately, the whole political season lacks energy. It is devoid of enthusiasm. It's devoid of issues, to say the least. And because of that, we educated ourselves to the fact that the failure of the political opposition to engender a reform campaign meant that the outgoing is preparing to be the incoming. And for me, that really draws out energy from the people that had intended that at this stage would have a buzz of impending change on the horizon. That, in a way,
I think what you said is a contradiction, because we're looking at crowds. Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi still draws crowds, and it's now reduced to a two-horse race, more of a two-horse race between Kyagulanyi and Museveni.
That has always been the case, and the issue of crowds speak to one thing. The crowds speak to the fact that Ugandans want change, and immediate change.
And they speak to enthusiasm.
And look, it's whether the crowd gatherers are prepared for the change is another story. And that's my biggest problem. That over the last 3-4 years, we had the opportunity to prepare, to turn those crowds into victory. Unfortunately, we have seen crowds over the last 8 cycles, and the one big failure, that the crowds have not been properly channeled into the kind of activity that will give an opportunity to the opposition to have victory. So you have to have a bit of extra magic. If you're doing the same thing you did over the last 8 cycles, for you to expect a miracle to happen. There are no accidents in politics. Preparation and victory run in the same lane. You can have the numbers. The numbers speak to the desire for something to be done. But I'll tell you, one of my biggest suspicions, probably I'm wrong, with this kind of energy across, probably will encounter a very low voter turnout. You take off time as a journalist and go and ask an ordinary citizen what they think. Will they think they're enthused into the coming election? There's a lot of energy drawn out because of the lack of preparation. You can see parties are struggling for basic resources to be into the campaign, to support the candidates. I am aware all opposition parties are struggling to mobilize the resources to sponsor candidates. And the reason is that the political environment has been nurtured in such a way that it's very difficult for you to mobilize the resources locally to sponsor candidates, including internationally. And it's been deliberate over the last 8 cycles that the NRM, which is a state party, has all the resources, and so opponents have nothing to use. In other words, the resources available is to play escort. For you to be able to mount a formidable campaign that will turn tables on a state party requires enormous preparation and a sizable resource envelope, which is not available. That's a very big limiting factor to opposition parties, even when they have numbers.
Why are you keen on what's happening on the electoral platforms? Yet, from the onset, DF released a red flag on what would turn out. So you would ordinarily be folding your hands and shuddering at whoever is participating.
We raised a red flag so that posterity judges us right. That did not mean that we would then sit on our rallies and ignore what's going on. We have continued to speak to the challenges in the way the election is organized, because we believe something has to be done in the immediacy. And our thinking is that the country will not end. The country will not close shop. The country is not a project that will close after this election. That the red flag we have raised should educate all and sundry in the future to learn to listen, to learn to accept to be advised, to also to learn to climb down from their high horses, to understand that there's no I know all in these spaces.
Yeah, but one of the red flags that you raised was about the role of security in elections.
Yeah.
Would you give it to security this time that over the past 3 weeks they've been acting with a lot of restraint and discipline?
You're using the right phrase, restraint. When you are restrained, it also shows that you are capable of actually being what you are. We don't want restraint. We simply are demanding for everybody to follow the law. Don't say I'm capable of violating the law.
Yeah, but in the interview you would give it to them. You would say, kudos.
They are simply following the law. And anything beyond that will be a violation, and we shall condemn it. So let's shoot to follow the law. That has been our clarion call and demand. They are not doing the country a favor. It's not an act of magnanimity from security to follow the law. That's what they're supposed to do.
Well, prior to nominations, there was a pronouncement from Hon Mpuuga that this would turn out to be the quietest election. And when you see how it is unfolding, it's as though there is a bit of choreography. Are you watching from the same lens?
I don't know exactly what he meant in it being quiet. Probably he meant disjointed. I don't know what he exactly meant. You probably ask him what he meant by being quiet. Necessarily, elections are supposed to have momentum. Momentum on issues that citizens want to see talked about as pledges, as standpoints, and therefore, after the election, the citizens should be able to hold politicians to account for their pledges and promises. I don't know if that requires a quietness. Maybe he was speaking the fact that we have had violent elections over time, and his prediction, they make this one akin to a cat eating mice without spilling blood. I don't know what he meant exactly, but I'm thinking.
Yes, but when you look at the way things are playing out, security is acting within the rules of the law. So far, there is no chaos being meted out on the population. Does it suggest to you that perhaps the managers of this election have learned from the past and are playing to the rule book?
It's only one part of what needs to be done, as assuring the population and ensuring that the population is safe during and after elections is a key component of any electoral season or cycle. In fact, for us at the DF, it is citizen security first beyond anything else. There's no level of electioneering.
So you're being disproved on your worries.
Well,
the worries that you held earlier are being disproved now.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is one of the things that must be adhered to. And we're saying it's very okay to adhere to the law. And I'm saying it's not an act of courtesy. Obeying the law and working within the realms of the law is what we expect of any law-abiding security agency or outfit or even government. So, do you want us to thank them for obeying the law? That we must go around saying thank you for obeying the law? Do they have a right to disobey the law? But let's not get away from the critical point that at the DF, we raised the red flag over so many issues, including the manner in which the most important component of the electoral cycle was managed, which is the register, the voters register. You're aware that I've been consistent on demanding from the Minister of Justice to explain the nature of the register that's going to be used during the polls. Up to now, the last time we spoke about it said that he tabled a bill before cabinet that is going to ensure that the next election is conducted electronically. So meaning that the opposition parties are going to this election not even aware of the manner of elections, how they're going to vote. If the election is going to be electronic, there should have been a process to consult with stakeholders on the nature of programming that will go into electronic voting.
You've been mentioned as one of the parties who are having talks on the sidelines to sanitize the election process and also create a transition. Mao said there's one block where DF was mentioned, and there is another one where there is the National Interplatform and the PFF.
So how do you regard Mao?
He's the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
And in charge of all political parties? I don't want to speak...
Essentially, yes.
I don't want to speak to the shenanigans of Mao. I've known Mao across time, and I think he wants to speak a lot, and he wants attention a lot, which is okay. But I think that attention should be attention on his party, not other parties. And he doesn't speak for the DF, and out of respect for his age, he should restrain himself from speaking out of turn. Serious leaders do not speak.
Is there anything, any kind of conversation behind the scenes where DF is involved with other political parties?
The DF is not involved in any secret talks. When the DF sought to speak to other parties, it made it public. And I was here, and you even asked me how many parties we have written to. Whenever we met parties, we met with the media, because we thought these engagements are public engagements and they should be known.
And the mainstream parties gave you cold feet.
What do you mean by mainstream? We met with the National Consultative Forum, where all parties congregate, and we discussed the issues we wanted to table as the DLN and now DF. So if a single party says they don't want to discuss with us, then you question them, are they able to lead? Can you say you cannot speak to a section of citizens and then you think you are going to remain serious?
Because they realize maybe you are not well-meaning, having been a recent divorcee from their agenda.
Well, no leader at a higher level should act petty. Then you remain petty, and that puts a question on the extent of your agenda. But that's their space. My obligation, my duty is to seek audience. If you have audience, you should explain to the people. That's why you're speculating. Did they give reason? Did they? So that's their business.
Well, as we take a break, one of the things that have dominated the political discussion is the contradictions around iPod. Is DF in the first place interested in joining the iPod? And have you expressed any form of interest?
When the DF formally became a registered party and a parliamentary party, we were a parliamentary party with 4 members of parliament. We wrote to the iPod Secretariat asking them for the guidelines that will make one a member of the iPod, because we know that is the law. They wrote back to us in the terms that we needed to wait for the extra commission to gazette the DF as a parliamentary party, and for Parliament also to gazette the DF as a parliamentary party, which actually, as the DF we think, is the wrong interpretation of the law. We wrote back to tell them that actually their reading of the law and interpretation is faulty, and therefore they need to give us the guidance on how to act. We have not heard from them since. The long and short of this is that we have a law in place to govern the workings of parties in parliament. Good law or bad law, that is the law.
Do you find yourself in the same predicament as, but they're now being tossed left, right, and center?
I think our case is totally different. I have followed the issue around the NUP and their run-in with iPod. I think there is a question of probably grandstanding and political deception. From the word go, we have said, and I've said it severally, that you cannot run a political party using personal funds. If the law says that the public coffers shall be utilized to fund political parties, the conversation should be around the framework. Once the law says that, so there's nothing irregular about that, because how else are you going to fund a political party? A political party is a public good. It's a public asset. And therefore, where funding is enlisted to be from a government entity, the law and the regulations must be clear to all and sundry. And there's no form of grandstanding to say it is illegal money, it's money, evil money, and then you turn around and say, now I need it. That's leadership by deception, and we have been clear.
Is it catching up with them?
You ask them. Because what leadership demands that you clear in your intentions, you clear in your agenda, you do not lead others by deception. So leadership by deception is dangerous, because along the way, those you lead start questioning the wisdom of your decisions and why in some stages you act the way you act. Because unfortunately, my friends at the NUP have elected over time to pull 24 court of decency, of integrity, which they don't have at all. And therefore, with time, like I said before, their understanding will catch up with them.
What is in iPod except the money that you would really crave for?
Political parties are national institutions that by law and necessity are supposed to be platforms for dialogue.